You do not have a motivation problem, you have a starting cost problem. You see, when your brain is overloaded, even simple actions can feel expensive. Sending the message, opening a document, making the call, maybe even writing the first sentence. Not because those actions are huge, but because starting them requires more cognitive control than your system has available right now. And that is where most advice gets it wrong. It tells you to find your why, to push through resistance, to take action now. But if the real problem is cognitive load, motivation is the wrong tool. You do not need more hype. What you need is a lower cost way to begin. Hi, I'm Gwen Bach. I have a master's degree in applied neuroscience, and I'm the founder of Applied Brain Labs, where I study how modern environments shape and affect decision-making in ambitious professionals and business owners. So, in this video, I'll show you why starting can feel so hard when you're already overloaded and how to use a method called the if-then movement plan to start moving again. And not by forcing motivation, but by reducing the cognitive cost of action. So here's the core problem. Most people, if they're honest, have at least a rough sense of what would move things forward. Not the whole solution or the whole perfect plan, but the one next thing that would create some movement. So the message or the document, the appointment, the first sentence, the difficult part is not always knowing. The difficult part is initiation, that tiny gap between knowing what would help and actually doing it. And that gap is not a character flaw. It's a cognitive demand thing. Brandstätter et al. Found in 2001 that action initiation, the actual moment of starting something, places a real demand on cognitive control. And that matters because executive control is exactly what gets strained when working memory is overloaded. So the same cognitive overload that created the stuck state can also make it harder to do the thing that would begin to resolve it. And that is why advice like just take action can feel so useless. It describes the outcome, but it does not reduce the cost of getting there. It tells you to start, but it does not make starting easier. And when your system is already overloaded, that distinction really matters. And Golwitzer's work on implementation intention becomes useful here. An implementation intention is a very specific kind of plan, not I will work on this, or I should deal with this today, or this needs to get done, I need to get back on track. Those are intentions, but they're still very fluffy and vague. An implementation intention uses an if-then structure, like in an Excel spreadsheet. It's a specific situation. If something happens, then I will take this specific action. For example, if it is 9 a.m. tomorrow, then I will open the document and write some sentence. Or if I finish lunch, then I will send the message I've been avoiding before. If I sit down at my desk, then I will write the first 3 bullet points. So the reason this works is simple but very powerful. It takes the decision out of the moment of action. You're not waiting until tomorrow morning to decide whether you feel ready or you feel like it, or whether this is the right time, or if at all to begin, or if you have enough energy. That work has already been done. The cue is defined, the action is defined, so when the moment arrives, your brain has less to calculate. Golwitzer's research going back to 1999 found that implementation intentions reduce the executive control required for initiation. So when the cue and the action are specific, the brain does not need to make a fresh decision about whether and how to start. The plan has already done that work. And Brandstätter et al. Confirmed that in 2001 that implementation intentions support efficient action initiation even under cognitive load. And that's the important part for us. It's not a tool for easy days. It is useful precisely when getting started feels harder than it should, when you procrastinate, when your system is overloaded, when the task feels weirdly heavy, and when you keep thinking about the thing but not ever touching it. Because the point is not to make you more motivated. The point is to make starting require your brain to use less energy. Your brain is already overloaded, and if you keep recognizing yourself in that, and you want help working through something on a one-on-one consultation with me, there's a link below in the description. But now let me show you the method you can start with right now or today. So the research goes further than initiation. Sumovska et al., sorry if I misspelled the name, in 2025, that goal progress creates a feedback loop. Progress increases expectancy and that increases satisfaction, which increases motivation to continue. So the first smallest completed action is not just one action, it's a signal. It tells your brain, hey, something is moving. This is not frozen. I can affect this. I have control. And that signal changes the conditions for the next step. And this is the part most advice gets backwards. So most advice assumes you need to feel ready before you start. Ready, clear, energized, confident. But the research suggests the order often runs the other way. The small structured action comes first. The improved state follows from it. Fritsche in 2016 found that combining mental contrasting with implementation intentions improved goal attainment in people with mild to moderate depression. And that matters for us because it confirms something practical. You do not need to wait for a motivational state to happen before you move. The plan itself can support movement even when motivation is low. So today's method is called the if-then movement plan. I want you to do this on a piece of paper, and you don't need to solve your whole life or every open decision. And not everything you've been carrying, just one small thing. Take the situation you identified in the last video, a stuck situation, the open decision, the thing that keeps coming back into your mind. And then go through the 3 steps. We'll do that together. 1, define the next visible movement. Again, not the full resolution, the ideal fantasy outcome, not the version where everything is fixed. Just the next sign that something has moved. Ask, what would it look like if this had moved forward slightly? For example, I have sent the message, I have opened the document, I have written one honest paragraph, I have checked the actual cost, and I have named the decision in one sentence. The goal is not to be impressive, the goal is to be visible. You want an action clear enough that your brain can tell whether it happened or not. Step 2. Write the if-then plan, literally write it out. If specific situation or time, then I will specific small action. So it's not like I will work on this later, or I will try to make progress together, or I will solve the whole world hunger problem right now. Those are too vague. Try something small, like if it is 9 a.m. tomorrow, then I will write one sentence about what I actually think. So if I sit down after lunch, then I will start writing the message that I've been putting off. If I open my laptop, then I will open the document before I check my email. So that specificity matters. Webb and Sheeran in 2004 found that implementation intentions improve cue detection. In other words, when the plan is specific, your brain becomes better at noticing when the conditions for action are present. The plan starts with doing cognitive work before the moment even arrives. You're not relying on yourself to remember, interpret, decide, and initiate all at once. You have built a cue, and when the cue appears, the action has already been assigned. Step 3, make the action small enough that readiness becomes irrelevant. This is where ambitious people often make the plan too big. They do not write, if it's 9 a.m., then I will open the document. They write, if it is 9 a.m., I will write the whole document down in one setting, and even if it's till 9 in the evening. And so they make and so they want everything resolved at once and plan the next 6 months. And of course your brain resists that. It is too much. The action has to be small enough that you do not need to feel ready to do it. And you do not need to feel ready to, nobody needs to feel ready to just write the first 3 words of a sentence. You do not need to feel ready to open the document. And you don't need to feel ready to start writing one small email. So what I mean here, the point is, you don't need to solve the whole thing. The point here is to create the first smallest completed movement. So the method is very simple. The next visible movement is, if specific cue, then I will specific small action. The action is small enough because, and that is it, not a complete life or work overhaul, not a new identity or dramatic reinvention of your work. One if-then plan written on paper for one stuck thing. And there's a reason I keep on saying paper rather than a device. When you're stuck, your attention is already fragmented. Your brain is already carrying open loops, and most devices are basically open loop machines. You go to write one sentence and suddenly, plong, there is some notification, more message tabs, more files that you see, 12 other things asking for your attention. And that is not neutral, that is more load. Schaefer found in 2025 that even simple physical actions like touching objects can reduce working memory errors under cognitive load. And there is something about physical, tangible interaction that can support cognition differently from screen-based interaction. Writing by hand keeps you in the room with the thing that you're working on, and it narrows the environment. One page, one sentence, one next movement, and this connects back to the research we covered earlier in this series. Masicampo and Baumeister found that cognitive interference from an unresolved goal was reduced not only by completing the task, but also by making one specific plan for it, and that's important. The plan itself can reduce the load before the action is even completed. So when you write a specific if-then plan, something has already changed. Your brain no longer has to hold the goal in a vague, fluffy, unresolved maintenance state. It has a cue. It has an action. It has something to put into the intention. The loop is not fully closed, but it is contained, and containment matters here. So here's what I really would love you to understand about why this works. You are not stuck because you lack the capacity to move. You are stuck because the cognitive conditions of our world make initiation expensive, and implementation intention reduces that. It separates the decision from the action. Instead of arriving at the moment and asking, do I feel like doing this? Is this the right time? Or, oh God, where should I start? What if I do it wrong? Or do I have enough energy? That's my question. You arrive at the moment with the answer already written down, and you can keep it on your desk. And that if then the cue appears, the action follows, and never perfectly or magically, but with less cognitive negotiation. And when that small action is completed, the system gets new information. I can do this. I can move forward. I am in control. And this is not just a cloud in my head. This is where progress starts. Small, real progress. As Somonsky et al. Showed in 2025, progress changes the conditions for the next step. Not dramatically and obviously not instantly, but directionally. Expectancy improves, satisfaction improves, and motivation becomes easier to access, and not because you forced it, but because your brain now has evidence. This is why order matters. Do not ever wait till you feel ready. Do not wait for the entire plan to magically appear. And don't wait for perfect clarity. Create one if-then plan. Make the action small, make the cue specific, write it on paper, and then do the thing when the cue arrives. That is where the stuck state starts to move. And I want to be clear about this. This is not about lowering your standards or about pretending that the whole problem is smaller than it is. No, this is about reducing This is about reducing and choosing the size of your action that your nervous system and cognitive system can handle right now. Because we live in this world, and when you're overloaded, the first action cannot require the same cognitive capacity you would have on your best day. It has to match the state that you're actually in right now. And this is not weakness or laziness. This is just good design. So if you take nothing else from this video, take this. The way out of stuckness is not always a burst of motivation. Often it is a better designed starting point, a cue, a small action, a plan that reduces the decision load. An if-then structure that helps your brain start before it has to renegotiate everything. So today, choose one stuck thing, write one if-then plan, make the action small enough that readiness is no longer required, and then let that first movement give your brain new information, because once something moves, even slightly, the stuck state is no longer the same state. In the next and final video in this series, I'm going to address something most people do not think about until they find themselves stuck again for the third or fifth time, because for a lot of people the stuck state keeps returning. For me too. And it returns not because we're doing something wrong. It returns because the conditions we live in and that created have not changed.